The Convergence Paradox. If the prosecution's timeline were a physical bridge, this is the exact moment it would collapse under its own weight. By overlaying the testimony of David Stinson, the register logs, the star witness Bivens, and Deputy Curtis, the defense uncovered a temporal bottleneck so tight that multiple human beings would have had to occupy the exact same space at the exact same minute, while remaining completely invisible to one another. Let us look at the terrifyingly tight sequence of events as swore under oath. 1. The Phantom cash out, 7:41 to 7:42 a.m. David Stinson enters the D&W convenience store at 7:41 a.m. store time, 7:39 a.m. on his watch. He finds the store empty and begins searching for Heidi Allen. He is inside the building, walking the aisles, actively looking. Yet, the forensic data from the cash register tape tells a staggering story. A formal cash-out transaction is executed at 7:42 a.m. store time. This means that while Stinson was inside a quiet, compact convenience store searching for clerk, someone else was standing at the counter, hitting keys on the electronic register and clearing the tape. Yet Stinson, the man searching the store, saw and heard absolutely nothing. 2. The 7:45 a.m. traffic jam. The timeline morphs from a mystery into an outright absurdity at exactly 7:45 a.m. According to the prosecution's star witness, Bivens, a distinct van is sitting on the scene at 7:45 a.m., established firmly, because that is the mathematically earliest minute Bivens' vehicle could have driven past the D&W. In the state's narrative, this van is actively executing the abduction of Heidi Allen. But let's look at who else claims to be in that tiny parking lot at that exact identical minute. David Stinson is standing outside, having finished his search. Pat Granger has just pulled up and parked on the scene. Deputy Richard Curtis claims he has just arrived in proximity of 7:45 a.m. after being flagged down by Stinson. The paradox. If Bivens drives by at 7:45 a.m. and sees the kidnapper's van, he should also see David Stinson standing outside, Pat Granger's vehicle parked, and Deputy Curtis's marked sheriff's cruiser pulling into the lot with its lights potentially rolling. Conversely, if Curtis arrived at 7:45 a.m., he and Stinson should have locked eyes with the kidnapper's van that Bivens swore was there. Yet, Curtis testified under oath that when he arrived, he saw no people or any moving vehicles in that parking lot. Stinson saw no van. Granger saw no van. The inescapable conclusion. For the state's case to be true, the laws of physics have to bend. You cannot have a 7:42 a.m. register cash out go unnoticed by a man actively searching the room. You cannot have a high-profile kidnapping van sitting in a small gas station lot at 7:45 a.m. without it being seen by an arriving witness, a waiting citizen, and a responding sheriff's deputy, who all claim to be standing in that exact same pavement footprint at that exact same tick of the clock. The timeline didn't add up because it couldn't. It was an artificial jigsaw puzzle where the pieces were shaved down by the hands of investigators to force a fit, leaving a glaring, mathematically impossible 14-minute fiction in their wake. The sheriff's own paperwork didn't just catch Deputy Curtis in a contradiction. It proved that the entire chronological foundation of the state's case was an artificial construct built months after the fact to retroactively fit a narrative that the real morning timeline completely rejected. On the stand, Deputy Curtis spoke with the steady confidence of a man recounting a procedure he had performed 1,000 times. He told the jury of the detailed tape, the vital receipt from that April morning, and how he had personally taken from Gram Duell affixed an evidence tag and secured it within the CID division's locker. He swore under oath that the evidence presented before the court was in substantially the same condition as the moment he retrieved it on April 3rd, 1994. But the ledger tells a different story, one that quietly unravels the deputy's testimony. Hidden within the official reports is a singular, damning entry from investigator H.G. Yurden. Dated August 11, 1994, the log reads plainly, Gram Duell gave me cash register tape for April 3rd, 94. The contradiction is stark. If the evidence was secured in April, as Curtis testified, it could not have been received by Yurden 4 months later in August. The timeline is fractured. A piece of evidence purported to be locked away in the spring was, according to the official log, still in the hands of a witness in the height of summer, casting a long, dark shadow over the integrity of the entire investigation. In the span of those 4 months, The truth of the register had become a ghost, trapped between what was sworn in the light of the courtroom and what was recorded in the silence of file. The architecture of a false window. The prosecution's case against the Thibodeaus rested on a foundation of crystalline precision, a narrow, 13-minute window of impossibility between 7:42 a.m. and 7:55 a.m. But beneath the surface of this clinical timeline, the gears of justice were being manually adjusted. The central pillar of this narrative was the cash register receipt. In any investigation, such an item would be logged, bagged, and tagged within hours of the crime. Yet, in the D&W Store investigation, the primary document used to anchor the abduction did not officially enter the evidentiary record until 4 months had passed. This 4-month delay remains the most glaring omission in the state's account, suggesting that the timeline was not a discovery of fact, but a retroactive construction designed to frame the narrative. The man tasked with validating this timeline was an officer whose testimony provided the necessary glue to hold the fabrication together. To solidify the 13-minute gap, the officer claimed to have performed a precise synchronization of his own watch against the store's register and the prominent wall clock visible to everyone in the shop. He spoke of these moments with the confidence of a man recording history in real time, testifying that the times were in perfect alignment. But the testimony fell apart under the weight of a single, overlooked detail. Gram Duell, who had been in the store that very morning, provided a statement that rendered the officer's verification a physical impossibility. The store's wall clock was broken. It was not ticking. It was not keeping time. It was a static monument to a moment that had passed. By claiming to use a non-functional clock to verify the time on a register receipt that had been recovered months after the fact, the officer did more than misremember the events. He engaged in a calculated act of synchronization. He was not reporting what he saw. He was reporting what was required for the prosecution to succeed. The clock was stopped. The receipt was missing, and the reality of the morning was messy and contradictory. By weaving these facts into his report, the officer effectively built an artificial box around the disappearance, ensuring that the evidence would never point anywhere but where the state needed it to, at the doorstep of the accused.